Hello, chemistry teachers. Welcome back to video number 2. I hope you're having a positive day, just like a proton, and not a negative day, like electrons. All right, that was kind of lame. Not redoing it though, so here we go. We are jumping into our second video, which is going to be on the unit landing page of the curriculum map. The last video, if you watched it, was going over the scope and sequence. Here I've got the large print version I showed you how to get to. Your unit, the link to your unit curriculum maps is going to be here. And I'm going to try to use the language that I want us to refer to this so that we're all understand the same thing. You've got your curriculum maps. Your curriculum maps also include your pacing guide. It's just down the way. But every curriculum map starts with a unit landing page. I call it that because there's information on here and it changes from unit to unit. Some of the stuff like the district resources, those won't change, but all the information up and around here, that stuff changes unit to unit. And you can really use this to help propel your planning for the year. I've covered a little bit of this in the last video, like the unit project, but let me walk through this stuff one thing at a time. And actually, I found if I zoom in, now we can all see everything much better. Okay. So curriculum map, unit landing page, just so I can show you guys as you scroll down, you'll start to see your other concepts. All of this information I pulled from Discovery Ed. It is our main resource, but that doesn't mean that's the only place you're going to be pulling things from. I just wanted to make sure that we could get the most out of it as possible. But let's start here, and I'll just work top to bottom to show you guys exactly what we're working with. So to start off, you got your pacing calendars. Those are down below. So these are just bookmark links that take you down quickly. So if you didn't want to have to scroll all the way down to concept 3, you can just click this and boom, it took me down to the bottom of the page without having to do all the scrolling. Just a nice little link. Nothing important there though. That's not already on here. You got your teacher background knowledge. So these PDF documents, if you were to open them up, let's say that you're going into this concept or unit, and it's not a concept that you're as familiar with, and you want a little bit of background knowledge on it. Well, you can click on this, and I'll show you what that looks like. And there's some great information that I pulled off of Discovery Ed to create these background knowledge. There's a lot of connecting it to students' lives. That's your kind of introductory. And then as you move forward, you got your prior knowledge for students. So how are you going to act? What should they already know? Now, this stuff is they should already know, but as you know, not always. So this is where I go, I might need to have some scaffolding built in to make sure that we cover these things quickly, built into our lessons. Just make sure we're all on the same page. Like students should be able to calculate averages. I always found in 9th grade, I had to teach that. So I built it into multiple labs. I didn't stop for a week and teach averages. I just built it into my lessons over and over again. So that way they got it. So that's an idea of how you scaffold, and you can use this to help with that. I really like this section, common misconceptions. This helps you think about what are my students going to come into this lesson and have the wrong ideas of, so that I can make sure that we change that with our labs and lessons. So really good to view that. And there's typically quite a few of them. Differentiation strategies. Again, this all comes from Discovery Ed. I didn't create any of this, but if you have struggling students, here's a few ideas. If you got English language students, here's a few ideas like starter sentences. Those are excellent. And part of the 3Ls program that we're doing has sentence starters, stems. I forget what they call them. Accelerated students. So now you got, okay, what can I do for students who are really just pushing ahead? Here's some accelerated students ideas. And then just a few links. These stay constant throughout all of these. So, and actually you can't click them. I might change this document to be a Word doc so that you can access those links. But we'll see about that. All right. So that is the teacher background knowledge. Even if you're an expert at chemistry, as you saw, there's some really good stuff in there, like some ideas for how to engage the students right off the bat. What are the misconceptions and what things should they already know coming into it? So I would encourage, always look at that before diving into a concept. Moving on down, you've got your proficiency scales. This was on the scope and sequence I talked about. I just left them there. I haven't modified the proficiency scales for teachers that like them. you can use them. As we come down to the assessments, these assessments I've pulled just from Discovery Ed. You're probably not going to be going through Discovery Ed verbatim, only using that. You're probably going to be incorporating other ideas and resources. So I wouldn't look at these assessments as, oh, I will give this test to my students, but more of, here are some questions that are tied to the topic we're doing that I might use as do nows or in our exit tickets in our lessons. And this is actually where I pulled, not all of it. I think these are the formative assessments. I also pulled from the practice, and I can show you where those are. But these are types of questions that they'll see at the end of Q1 on their test. So it might be a good idea to steal some ideas and questions from there so you don't have to spend time creating things on your own. So that's going to be that area. Your district resources, this is going to remain constant. It's your quick links to everything you need. I might change this area up a little bit. So what it looks like when school starts might be a little bit different. The major thing I want to add is that there's going to be a link somewhere here that takes you to a Google form. At the end of every unit, I want teachers to complete this. It's not very long, but it gives me data. What were the parts of this curriculum map that you liked? And some of them are just rate 1 to 5. So I kind of get, okay, what are people liking when they use this curriculum map? And then there's some open-ended questions that allow you to provide positive feedback. I love this, please keep it, or some constructive feedback. I would get more out of this if we tweaked it to this. So I'm gonna push that out via email. It'll be linked here. I want feedback from you guys so that this document, which I think view as version 1, becomes better. All right, so that's the left-hand side. Coming down to our anchoring phenomena and unit project. So these, I believe I made up trying to tie it as best as I could to the concepts and the material that you're doing. So sometimes these have links, sometimes they do not, but the links are not mandatory. You have to do what's there. They're just ideas to get you going. So for this one, you're going to start chemistry by talking about atoms. Now, they've had an introduction to atoms before. And so what I like to do is an activity with my students where they really try to understand just how small atoms are. And so one of the activities I've done with my class is they have to cut down a piece of paper. And there's instructions here and more detailed instructions. But what it is just a normal sheet of paper. And they have to cut it in half. And then when they got that half, as you guys probably know with the folding, you can only do it so many times. Now you have to cut that in half again, and then cut that in half again, and see how many times they are able to cut it in half again and again and again. And what they're going to find is it gets so thin, they can't cut it with the scissors. And what you tell students is like, all right, so that's pretty thin. That was pretty hard. You would have to cut it in half 31 more times, or 31 times total, in order to get to the size of one atom. And they typically run out of space to cut by 8 if they're really good. So that gives students an idea like, wow, atoms are really small. And so now they're engaged. They're like, okay, so this thing that's so tiny, what's going on here? So that was just an idea. If you have your own idea for how you like to engage students, share that. A lot of this stuff I want to get teacher input on so that we can share it. And I'll show that in a couple of videos from now where you can add that to. You got your guiding questions as we go throughout this whole unit. These are the questions that we need to have the students thinking about because they need to be able to answer this. In order to keep that in the mind of everybody as we're moving throughout, I've created these unit project posters. And I'll go ahead and open this up. And what this has on there is a reminder of what's our unit, what are we trying to answer, what are the different concepts, like as we go through these, what are we learning as we go through, and a reminder of this was the phenomena and what are our questions. And so these unit project posters, I'm hopefully going to have printed out, laminated for you that you'll be able to put like on your door. So students see it every day when they come in, you see it every day. Your instructional leaders at your building see it. They can say, okay, I see what they're learning about. And these will be a great way to keep everybody on the same page. What are we trying to answer in this unit? So I thought those were pretty cool. Hopefully you guys find uses for those. If I don't have the posters created, you guys can obviously print these off and make your own. But I am going to work on it. Where would vibranium go? So this is the project. So unit 1, they start off with atoms, the atomic theory, and then they end up looking at the periodic table. So basically getting the basic structure of how it was built and why things are in the order that they are. So I thought this project fits in well with, at the end of that unit, students could take this made up element, vibranium, if you're a Marvel fan, you know what I'm referencing, and say, where would this fit on the periodic table, and provide me some explanations for why. And so, well, they can't put it over in the halogens gas. That's not the properties of vibranium. It's got to fit somewhere where it has similar properties to an element, and students can find where that would go. So kind of a cool concept. And you can Google this. I'm pretty sure there's some that you could find to help flush that out. Or again, if you have a project idea that you think works better for this unit, let me know and we'll share that with people. These are not, you have to do these. These are, this is a good idea or something that you can do to help your students kind of finalize their learning for a unit. As we come down, there might be some modifications to this area, but I'm guessing it will stay the same for now. This is the K-12 vertical alignment. This is also another great spot to go if you're looking at what have they learned in the previous grades that tie into this concept. You can get that either by concept ideas or standards, just so that you can go, what are students supposed to have known coming in? So might be useful to look at that. Similar to the unit project poster I showed, I do have a unit outline map, and this one's more for a teacher side just to have, and what's my flow. Let me pull this up. Discovery Ed had these for the middle school curriculum, so I went ahead and just kind of made it my own. So it's just kind of like, here, remember, you start with your anchoring phenomena, and then you want to preview project, kind of make them think about, okay, as we go through this, think about where would you put something on the periodic table? Here's the different chapters that we'll be doing. Probably should change the word chapters to concepts. We're a bit past that. You got your project. So after you've gone through everything, you do that project, that vibranium, have students finalize their learning with that, and you'll hit your unit assessment. Now, I did not create unit assessments. I created the district quarterly assessments. So the unit assessment might be something that you guys create or we create all together. So that way we can still look at data before we get too far into the year. So that would be something that we can meet and talk about. And then moving on down to this last part, sometimes it feels like our learning is disconnected. So there's this unit storyline that kind of takes you through, here's how we're transitioning the kids from what they've learned. Physics first, they should have learned a little bit of chemistry. And so we're going to pick up with the atom, how things are made. Like, this is the building blocks, the Lego blocks of the universe. There's certain properties that can't be changed about atoms, and we use those to structure the periodic table, and here's trends that you see. So that's what this unit storyline is. Should help you as you think about the unit as a whole, and hopefully those make sense. But one little note here, this is more for when we get to the actual pacing guide, just a few abbreviations. It's just to save room on typing. HOL, hands-on lab, VL, virtual lab, HOA, hands-on activity. These are terminology from Discovery Ed, and I felt like just naming things to shorthand it. So that's just a reminder if you see that in any of the verbiage down below. I'll show you an example. Here you go. This is a virtual lab, and that is a hands-on lab, just so that we were all clear on what those abbreviations mean. All right. As with most of my videos, I tend to ramble on too long when I plan to keep these really short. So let me stop myself there. Remember, this is the unit landing page, helping you to plan out your unit, starting it, finishing it, and hopefully there's a lot of good resources here that help you do that. In the next video, we're going to take a look at Discovery Ed, how that can be used, what are our other resources, and then the video after that, we'll actually look at the pacing guide and how that's all structured and laid out. Okay, I hope you guys are having a great day and that you're getting a lot out of this. I'll catch you guys in the next video.